He sent her money every single month for 8 long years. He skipped meals, missed Christmases, and slept in a bunk the size of a coffin so she could build their dream house in Iloilo. But when he finally came home with a ring in his pocket, what he found at that blue gate destroyed everything he believed about love, sacrifice, and the woman who promised to wait. Stay until the end, because what he does next will make you cheer. Mateo Rivera was 34 years old, quiet, patient, and the kind of man who measured love by what he gave instead of what he received from others. Born in a small fishing barangay in Iloilo, he grew up watching his widowed mother sell dried fish at the local market with cracked hands and an empty stomach every single day. He learned early that sacrifice was not just a word, it was a daily action. At 26 years old, Mateo signed his first seafarer contract for 2 reasons that lived inside his chest like twin engines burning together. The first reason was his mother, Aline Rosing, who deserved real rest after decades of pure survival. The second reason was Liza Mendoza, 24, the girl he had loved since 4th year high school days. Beautiful, charming, full of dreams. Before he left, he gave her a simple silver ring and one sacred promise. Liza cried at the airport that humid morning while holding the silver ring tightly against her chest. She whispered the word forever directly into his ear before he walked through the security gate alone. She told him she would wait through every contract, every storm, every long silence between phone calls home. Mateo believed every single syllable because he had no real reason not to trust her completely. He boarded the plane with her voice still echoing. For 8 long years, Mateo lived a life most people cannot imagine and would never survive. He worked on cargo ships crossing oceans he never saw. He skipped shore leave in Singapore, Rotterdam, and Cape Town. If this story is touching you already, please smash that like button, share with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe and stay watching until the end, and comment Pinoy with a love emoji to show your support. He slept in a small bunk the size of a coffin while the cargo ship rocked beneath him through dark Pacific nights. He missed 8 Christmases, 8 birthdays, 8 New Year fireworks watched alone on the deck, while other men called their families and laughed into the cold sea air around them. He learned to swallow his loneliness like medicine. Bitter, necessary, and impossible to spit out anywhere. Every month he sent money home without fail. He sent money home for the dream house they were supposed to live in together someday soon. He sent money for her younger siblings' tuition fees. He sent money for her mother's high blood pressure medicine. He sent money for the small sari-sari store that would be their backup business when his sea years finally ended. He sent money for a future he could see clearly. A small home, 2 children, his mother growing old, peacefully. Liza sent him photographs in return that became his only real possessions on the cargo ship. The empty lot they had bought together. The concrete foundation rising slowly from the dark soil. The walls going up brick by careful brick over many months. The freshly painted blue gate at the front entrance. She sent voice messages full of soft promises like, "I miss you, Mahal. The house is almost ready. Just please come home soon. Forever." In his 3rd year at sea, his beloved mother fell seriously ill back home in their small Iloilo barangay. Liza called him, crying, through a bad satellite connection one humid afternoon. She told him not to come home, to keep saving the money instead, that his mother was actually okay and she was personally taking care of everything herself. She said his mother would never want him to break his expensive contract over something temporary. Stay. 6 months later, Liza called him again with a different kind of crying voice in his earpiece. His mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep one quiet evening at home. Liza said she had personally handled all the funeral arrangements. She sent him photographs of the wake with candles, flowers, the small wooden casket. She told him his mother's last words were a special message just for him. "Tell my son I am very proud." Mateo cried alone inside the loud engine room for 3 straight nights without anyone knowing. He punched the metal walls until his knuckles bled openly and the chief engineer pretended not to see anything. He kept working through every assigned shift because that is what his mother would have wanted from him. He kept sending money home every month because the house was still being built and Liza still needed him there. He believed everything completely. After 8 long years of saving, sacrificing, and surviving alone at sea, Mateo finally signed his last contract papers. He was coming home for good this time. He had saved enough money to start their life together properly. During a layover in Dubai airport, he bought a real engagement ring, gold band with a small diamond. Exactly the kind Liza had pointed to in a magazine years before he left for the sea. He smiled. He decided not to tell Liza he was finally coming home for good. He wanted to surprise her properly with the moment. He imagined kneeling at the gate of the house he had paid for from across the ocean, ring in hand, finally claiming the life he had built brick by patient brick from thousands of miles away. He landed in Manila on a Tuesday morning. He took the long bus ride south to Iloilo alone. He arrived at the address just as the orange sun was setting behind the tall coconut trees. The house was exactly as Liza had described in every voice message she ever sent. Blue gate at the front entrance. Clean white walls glowing softly in the warm evening light. A small garden with bougainvillea climbing up a wooden trellis. Beautiful, real, his. He stood at the gate, smiled to himself, and reached forward for the metal latch. Then his tired eyes landed on the metal mailbox, bolted to the gatepost beside him at chest height. The name engraved on the plate was not his name at all. It was not Mateo Rivera written there. It said, clearly, in dark black letters, Ramon Velasco. Mateo froze, with his hand still resting on the gate latch. He told himself there must be some kind of mistake. Maybe wrong house, maybe wrong street. Maybe just exhaustion confusing him. He looked through the iron fence into the front kitchen window of the house carefully. Liza was standing at the counter, cooking dinner over the stove. Older now, hair tied up in a loose bun. Wearing a faded yellow apron he had never seen before in any of her photographs. 2 small children played on the wooden floor near her feet. A girl, maybe 5 years old, a small boy, maybe 3. Both laughing about something. Then a man stepped into clear view from the back hallway, holding a cold bottle of beer in one hand. Tall, heavy-set, local Iloilo accent carrying through the open kitchen window. He picked up the small boy with one easy, strong arm, kissed his forehead gently, and laughed loudly at something the girl shouted from the floor. The little boy giggled and called out one single word that broke Mateo cleanly into 2 pieces. Papa, Papa. Mateo could not breathe properly anymore, standing there at the blue gate. He stood frozen for what felt like an entire hour, while his mind tried desperately to rearrange the scene into something that made some kind of sense. Then Liza walked out onto the front porch to call her 2 children inside for dinner. She wiped her wet hands on her apron and looked toward the gate out of pure habit. She saw him standing. She did not scream loudly. She did not run away. She did not even drop the dish towel from her hands onto the ground. She simply stood very still on the wooden porch and stared at him for what felt like a small eternity passing between them. Her face went pale, then composed itself again with a calmness that was almost more cruel than panic would have been. She walked slowly down the steps to the gate. "You should have told me you were coming," she said quietly through the iron bars between them. Like he was a problem she had not scheduled into her week. Like 8 long years of letters, voice messages, and remittance slips had been completely cancelled by his unannounced arrival at her front gate that evening. Mateo could not find any words to respond with at all. He simply turned around silently and walked back to the road. The full painful truth came out over the next 2 days, mostly from elderly neighbours who finally found the courage to speak honestly with him at last. Liza had married Ramon only 2 years into Mateo's first contract abroad. She had kept receiving Mateo's money for 6 more years because she always told the neighbours it was for the family. She used every peso to build the house Ramon now legally owned outright. Complete betrayal. She had paid for her 2 young children's schooling completely with Mateo's hard-earned money from the sea. She had bought expensive appliances, a new motorbike, even a small piece of land registered legally in Ramon's full name. The neighbours had known everything happening for years. Her own family had known too. Even her own mother had known the entire painful time. No one had told him because the money kept arriving every single month from overseas. The worst painful truth waited for him quietly at the public cemetery on the edge of town. His mother had not died peacefully with Liza by her side, as he had been carefully told repeatedly. Aling Rosing had died completely alone in a charity ward at the provincial hospital, asking the night nurses repeatedly for her son. Liza had not paid for any funeral at all. The neighbours had pooled small coins together to bury her properly. Mateo found his mother's small grave that same night with a flashlight borrowed from the cemetery caretaker. The headstone was small, cracked badly at one corner, and covered in tall weeds that had grown wild for many years untended. There was no photograph displayed, no carved message, no final goodbye written anywhere, just her name carved roughly into cheap concrete and the year she had died alone, calling desperately for him to come home. Empty silence. He sat down heavily in the dirt beside her grave and finally let himself cry without holding anything back inside anymore. He did not cry loudly into the night. He did not cry dramatically for anyone watching. He cried the quiet, broken way a son cries when he realises he missed everything that ever truly mattered in his entire life. He pulled the engagement ring out of his pocket and stared at it under the cold moonlight. 8 years of his life had paid for that small piece of gold sitting in his open palm. 8 years of pure sacrifice for a woman who had completely replaced him in less than 2 short years. He did not throw the ring away into the dark night. He buried it carefully in the soft soil above his mother's grave instead. He whispered into the darkness, "I am sorry I was not here, Ine. I promise." He had a small amount of savings left untouched in his bank account back in the city. Not much money, just enough to start completely over from nothing if he was very careful with every single peso he spent. He found a small piece of land near the shore for sale, rocky, almost worthless to most other potential buyers. He bought it for a fair price from an old fisherman who still remembered his mother's kindness. Mateo built a one-room house on the land slowly with his own 2 hands over many months. He learned everything as he went along through trial and error. The roof leaked badly the first time it rained heavily that season. He fixed it himself the very next morning. The wooden door did not close properly in the humid afternoons. He fixed that too with patience. Every nail he hammered was a nail into his new life. He opened a small boat repair shop by the shoreline and named it Rivera Boat Repair after his late father. The local fishermen brought him their broken bankers, their torn fishing nets, their busted small boat engines. He repaired everything carefully with the same patient hands he had once used to count remittance slips at sea for years. He charged everyone fairly. He never overpriced anyone. The community slowly began to trust him completely over time. The man who had been hollowed out completely by betrayal began filling back up again slowly with new purpose. Not with bitterness or burning anger this time around, with quiet, steady purpose and honest hard work. Elena Sarmiento was 31 years old, a widowed schoolteacher from the next barangay over the small hill. Her husband had drowned in a fishing accident 3 years earlier, leaving her alone with a young 6-year-old daughter named Maya. Quiet. Elena brought her broken wooden banker to Mateo's shop one quiet Tuesday morning after sunrise. She did not know his painful story at all. She only knew his prices were always fair, and his hands were unusually gentle with the boats. She offered to pay him in small installments over several months ahead. Mateo looked at the broken banker, then at her tired eyes, and simply shook his head slowly. "Pay me when you can. Mahal." She tried to insist on paying him properly again. He shook his head a second time gently. "Your husband used this boat to feed your daughter," he said quietly. "Let me fix it for him." Elena did not say thank you with any words. She simply nodded and walked away silently down the dirt path. She returned the next week with a container of homemade adobo wrapped carefully in fresh banana leaves from her own backyard. The week after that, she brought fresh, warm pandesal straight from the local bakery, then sweet suman, then a small jar of strong black Barako coffee. Maya started coming with her on every visit, bringing broken wooden toys for Mateo to fix carefully on the workbench. Mateo did not fall in love quickly because he had completely forgotten how to feel anything anymore. But Elena did not push him for anything at all. She just stayed. 2 long years after Mateo had finally come home, Liza appeared unexpectedly at the door of his small shop one humid afternoon. Ramon had finally left her for someone younger. The transport business had collapsed completely into bankruptcy. The blue-gated house was being foreclosed quickly by the bank. Her own family had turned their backs on her once Mateo's monthly money had stopped flowing through her hands. She stood at his door, thinner now, broken, alone. Mateo walked calmly to his desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out a thick envelope filled with enough money for her to start over somewhere far away from him. He handed it to her without anger or hesitation in his hands. "This is for the children," he said clearly. "Not for you." She tried to touch his hand desperately. He stepped back firmly. She whispered, "Please." He looked at her one final time. "Goodbye, Liza, forever." That same evening, Mateo closed his shop early and walked to the small school where Elena worked as a teacher every day. Maya came running out first, wrapping her small arms around his legs, shouting "Tito Mateo" loudly. He knelt down in front of Elena, pulled out a simple silver ring, and asked her to spend the rest of her life with him and little Maya. Comment Pinoy with a love emoji if Mateo deserved happiness.